Greetings, Kahnawake, and welcome to the first edition of Meet the Candidates Night Live. Much thanks extended to the MCK Public Relations team and K103.7 FM for making this possible. After the speeches have concluded, a question and answer period will follow. Community members, you can either place your name to your question or remain anonymous. You can specify who your question is directed to or give a question to any of the candidates. As a side note, please be notified that the electoral officer has the exclusive right to veto any questions that seem irrelevant or unacceptable as to the nature of the event's purposes. At that, a great thanks for taking part in this historic broadcast. As mentioned to the candidates, the list of the persons who will be speaking was pre-done by Muriel, and the Grand Chiefs will be the first in line. So the first up would be Keith Mayo.
We're ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm good to go, or?
Yeah.
Proceed.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kahnawake. Of all the things that have happened in the last 50 years is why my platform is the return to traditional government. Traditional government is something that gives us credibility, legitimacy. That is who we are. Our treaties were made with our traditional representatives, not with the bank council, not with the ice cream shop. So these are things that need to be done. If not, then we're going to be looking at the same that we've been going through ever since the 10 agreements, whether it's policing or whatever else those 10 agreements are. But the people are witnessing and living right now the items regarding taxation. Our rights have been compromised so dramatically that it is, I can't even say laughable, but it's a shame. It's a crying shame. What we need to do is get back to where we belong in light of what Canada is doing, passing different legislation, Quebec. All those points are going unattended. United Nations with the UNDRIP. These items are so watered down, whitewashed to the point that our people, if we don't get our proper representation back in real quick, then we are going to lose the whole shebang. Where we come from and where we're going, we have no future the way that it is presently. This has to change, and a prime example is there are council members out there negotiating away for that, negotiated away Highway 30 without consent or consultation of the council table or the community. Same council member is out there negotiating to bring in that railroad back in along Kahnawake and out by Highway 30. These things cannot be allowed to continue. We're selling out our future generations. No one seems to know who is negotiating, what's being negotiated. I went through McGill to get my negotiating papers. I graduated, and I tell you, I will not sell the farm, and I will not sell my future generations. Where we are right now is a critical crime committed against just so that certain people can put monies in their pockets. As I stated on the radio yesterday, those career council members have to go. It's those career council members that have brought us to where we are. By constantly utilizing the same tactics and expecting a different outcome is called insanity. So if we expect to keep the same people in there doing the same thing over and over, it's insane for us to continue. Where we are today, it is up to the people to get out there and choose wisely. Whether people come out or not, we're going to be stuck with the same. Do we want to live the same? I'm sure nobody wants to. Where it is, no matter what happens, we all get the same response. People are PO'd, people are not happy, dissatisfied, disgruntled, you name it. We have to eliminate that air, build on bringing our people back together. This system here, as far as what I see, is the same as the residential school system. It's only there to kill us, and it's doing a damn good job. So we have to get in there and change it from the top down, and with people that are willing to work for the people and not for their pockets. This is where we have to busy ourselves, and it's obvious in the past that hasn't been the case. People do it for their own benefit.
Okay, thank you, Keith. The next for Grand Chief is Frankie McCumber.
Hey, Kahnawake. My name is Frankie McCumber, and I'm taking a shot at the Grand Chief of Kahnawake. I guess I'll go back and start with, I've been elected since 2019. I'm the lead portfolio for public safety. With my background in business and understanding of soils, I was in a meeting on May 24th, and during that meeting, it was talked about the asbestos. And they were wondering why there wasn't as many chiefs that were in that meeting that were when it comes to the discussion on asbestos. I flagged that to the table on the 28th of May. Through that flag, it took us approximately 1 month to get the information to the community, which was very frustrating at that time because many community members were trying to fix up their yards to prepare it for grass seeds. They had their children on it, and we did not, and we failed the community by not giving them the proper information. During that time, we did a lot of internal work to try to fix the situation. Now, currently, under the guidance of Mr. Cody Daibo, who has taken over the file, we have a criminal investigation going on. Following that, we had the train blockade, and I don't know if many of you are aware, but I showed up, I think the next day after the train blockade started, there was 2 women that were sitting there, and they had two pieces of wood and a beautiful fire going. And they're the 2 that started this fire, and I sat there with them. And then I was there every day for the next 5 weeks until it ended. I was collaborating and coordinating with the protesters and organizing stuff with public safety, internal political agencies, and helping to ensure no further escalations or conflicts would occur. It was a very uplifting time. I felt like we connected as a community, we united as a community, and it was a very powerful moment. You know, during that time, we were able to basically shut down the whole economy in Canada to help our brothers and sisters out in the west of Wet'suwet'en. So it was an important time, and it was really a learning experience for me as a leader. So following that, it was immediately following the of our elders and the most vulnerable. And from the blockade, we built relationships with our traditional community. And we ended up having 2 representatives from the traditional bodies, a part of the task force. We established communications and met with members of the business community to ensure that employees who would not have been eligible for unemployment benefits or other benefits were provided and eligible for the current benefits during the pandemic. So I'm going to get to my platform, which I think is very important. Right now, we are in a serious housing crisis. We have over 30 elders who are waiting to get in the Elders Lodge. When I got elected during 2019, I had told the community that I'm going to work on building a new Elders Lodge. At this time, we have not done that. But I'm going to make my promise today. We have over $12 million available in housing. Within the next year, we are going to start and have a plan ready to start digging to build a new Elders Lodge. If not, I'm going to resign in 1 year because then I would have failed my community. And I feel it's so important that we take care of our elders. Everybody talks about our elders, everybody. And we don't have housing for them. It's embarrassing, to say the least. To go further into housing, we have 40 families, young families, single mothers who don't have homes to live right now. We have nothing available for them. So we need to build a plan on that as well. We have many families who live on the outside communities who are trying to get back to Kahnawake and live here and be with us, with their children, and let their children grow. That's another issue I have. Following that, the assisted living environment.
30 seconds remaining.
We have community members with mobility issues and special needs. There is no room available in our community. We have to send them out of our community. This is unacceptable. We can't be living like this. We have to keep our people here. We have to take care of them, all of them. Another issue is we have this tobacco law. This law has been waiting over 5 years to be put in place, and it's still not done yet. I'm going to lead a team to ensure a comprehensive Kahnawake tobacco law is put into force.
Okay, Frankie.
Frankie.
Sorry,
And
your 5 minutes is up. Next on the list is Gina Deer.
Gina Deer, I'm very happy to be here tonight. It's been a very exciting time, I have to say, for me in the last 9 years being part of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake and working for the people. Throughout the 9 years, I have educated myself, honestly, about many of the issues facing us within the community. I want to say I've had a great opportunity to learn and work with community as well as exterior. I'm the only chief on council currently who holds the lead on 3 portfolios. And that's because I don't shy away from work. I have 3 portfolios that are very important to all the aspects of Kahnawake. That is community social affairs, economic development, and external government relations. These portfolios have given me the ability to work in many of the sectors in the community. I did talk about servicing the community better because there are so many areas that we are failing in. And I know from the work I've done the last 9 years that we can do better by community. We have many issues before us, housing being one of them. We have a critical shortage of housing for all sectors. It's been identified for the youth, for the families, for the elderly. What has happened over time is we have gotten away from our roots, our base, and we've gotten too formalized as a council. I've tried to help people over time, and I was told that people do not fit the criteria. This just is not acceptable. We shouldn't have somebody who does not fit criteria. We need to find ways to help people, not just in housing, in all the different sectors. The elderly who need medicine, who have to choose about buying medicine or paying bills. We have young families who have high rents, but yet we can't give them loans for housing. We have the need for social housing. There are monies available to do these things. Since I've joined MCK, there has been $10 million that has grown to $12 million in housing alone. We have the Continent 8 shares. There's millions in there. We have the revenues from the Mohawk online. We have the ability to help people, and we're not doing it. And that's why I am running for Grand Chief, to make the changes, to get back to the roots of the people and fill in the needs of the people. One of the things that is very important to me is the youth. We're not investing in the youth. You have great athletes, you have great students. We need to start injecting more funding into these things to help people thrive. The business community, we have to support the business community. It's crucial. We can move the economy with the small mom and pop shops. We need to create laws to support the bigger business opportunities for this community. We need to stop letting other people gain on our rights. There are people who utilize our territory so that they can thrive in business and do not give back, and that's not acceptable. I can't sit back and allow that anymore. For myself, I've watched over time the lack of laws around business to protect our people, our community, and our rights. We're talking about external governments, the tobacco law, which we had worked on. That law needs to be put into effect, and we need to start supporting our people. Our people are being criminalized. They're one by one being charged for trying to exercise their right and make a living. I've worked on so many different laws and bills to fight, whether it be C-218, which was for gaming, whether it be the bill for UNDRIP, which was Bill 15, that really does not support us or make any difference. It's something that reinforces status quo. Bill 66, when they tried to push the Mercier Bridge projects through without the proper consultation from Kahnawake, that was not acceptable, and we stopped that. I've worked constantly on trying to stop exterior governments, outside governments to come and infringe on our rights. And it's a long road. This is a torch that was passed to me that will be passed to the next generations. And we have to start working together as a community. We have to come together, not just in time of crisis, because we always talk about that seventh generation and looking out for them. By being divided, we are not looking out for them. Everything I've done, I've put out there in my campaign. I have a lot of experience that I bring forward, as well as drive and passion. I don't shy away from work, and I will continue to do that. That's the only promise I made in these 9 years, was to work for this community. And I will do that again. So I want to just end on one note. We talk about return to traditional government and a form of traditional government. I
Sorry.
think the basis of that is respect. And I would hope that people will start to respect all the candidates that are running.
Okay, Gina, thank you. Next on the list is Kasana Sky Deer.
Sego danos Kahnawà de Wadadega. Yawa ziza wadaroro danos wadahusa de unwa wanizarade. Kasanahawe Sky Deer Yujats, Wagatahuni ni wagita roda, dano ona gayeri ni wasa askana de wagoseriago. Agetni staha, Kasanahawi Joanne Sky Udajats, Rageniha, Kevin Gana Sohundir Wayats, Dano, the Udiri Wayanawago, the Usaderha Tami Joe Rice Udajats. So now go out to all the people who have supported me over the 12 years by giving me the opportunity to be your voice in this representative democracy that we call the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. It has been an honor to do this work and to serve the community. Every day I wake up motivated and inspired to do my best, put my best foot forward, to try to make our community a better place, and also to ensure that we're asserting our rights as Ungwehunwe people. I have been on many different portfolios over my tenure as Yadzahayas, and they have all been topics that I'm very passionate about. And first and foremost, you must know, is language and culture. Because knowing who we are and being able to speak our language, Ngwawana, and knowing our culture, Dzini is at the core of who we are, and that's where our collective rights and identities stem from as Ungwehunwe people. Membership and residency, because these components are at the heart of our governance. Identifying who is a part of the we, who could benefit from our rights, and who can make decisions are very important and paramount to our society. Youth and education, because they are our future and they need every opportunity possible to be able to succeed. And I believe in this community, we have all of the supports for them to be able to achieve dreams as big as they want them to be. There was also a time when I was on the tobacco portfolio, because this industry employs so many people in our community. It's been the backbone of our economy for decades. And what we definitely need to do in the next little while is to continue to assert our right to be able to exercise the trade. We definitely need to get the law and its regulation passed, and it must be a priority on our legislative agenda moving forward. Border crossing has also been one, because that imaginary and imposed line that has been placed on all Ngwehunwe people across Turtle Island must continue to be crossed and our rights exercised for trade, commerce, and for our relationships. We cannot let the laws on either side of that boundary impact our rights. I've been on external government relations, because the federal and provincial government need to be put on notice that there is one overriding law of this land, and it is the Gaswanta Degini Deohade Wampum Treaty. And what that says is that we were going to travel down this river of life together with the overriding sentiment of peace. And we know that they haven't held true to their word. You know, they're constantly legislating over our affairs and meddling and causing all this discord. So we have been mistreated and oppressed on our own lands for far too long. And the relationship with the province and the federal government must change. And the way we're going to do this is to push our cultural and collective identity as Ganyagahaga and Radinasuni people. Governance, you know that in the last little while, there has been a lot of discussion about the governance in our community, because this imposed elected system is flawed. It's not representative and reflective of who we are as Ngwehunwe people. We need to build trust. We need to get back into engaging with the people, being more transparent and accountable. And once we start this process, I believe there will be a natural evolution to a governance structure that is more reflective of who we are as Ganyagahaga people. And I know this work has already been started and commenced. I believe it's going to guide us moving into the future. We know that we are at our best when we work together as a community, when our backs are against the wall. Just look at this recent pandemic. You know, of course, the task force had a job to do, but honestly, it was the people. When the people pulled together and did what they had to do by being responsible,
30 seconds, Gus.
caring for each other, feeling the need to, you know, look out for each other, especially our elder population, that's when we're at our best. So I definitely think the people have to be acknowledged and thanked for all of the work that they have done. And at this juncture, I want us to reflect on who we are as Ngwehunwe people and all that we have been through. You know, these recent events with all of these mass graves being uncovered makes me want to honor them by forging a better future
Gina,
for our current generation and future
Kahnawà,
generations.
time's up.
That's a principle.
Thank you very much. Next on the list is Sterling Deer.
KahnawakeTV, Sterling Deer, Yujats. I guess I want to start off by giving you a little bit of an update on, you know, where I've been, what I've been doing. You know, for many of you, you know that, you know, I'm a local contractor in the community. I've done a lot of community, you know, help with lacrosse festivals for the children, the youth, you know, all kind of things like that. I've been involved in politics, I want to say my whole life, till I was able to, you know, understand, hear, listen, and absorb all the knowledge that was, you know, put in front of me at a young age. One of the most important things as a community and a nation we have to take care of is our language. Without your language, you lose your identity. So, you know, it's paramount, language and our education, to keep going and pushing and, you know, set the bar high for, you know, our young ones, you know, our adults that want to learn the language. Give them facilities, give them access to the teachings and learning and all the, you know, all the cultural based the things that we need to strive as Kahnawake people. And from that, we'll gain great strength as a community, because our language will pull us together. Everybody will be speaking it, you know, and we'll, you know, we're always been a proud people, and it'll make us prouder to communicate in our own language, Kahnawake. The other things is, you know, sovereignty. We're a sovereign people, you know, and we want to remain sovereign to the outside governments, entities, and, you know, communities. They, you know, we have to make them understand, you know, we're a sovereign people, we're different, we're unique. And we're not going to change for anybody, any entity, or for sure any government that's trying to oppress us yet again through all these bills they're putting through federally, provincially, you know, Bill C-30, which, you know, implemented certain criteria on our social workers that if they don't fall in the guidelines of Quebec, well then, you know, they can't do the work and heal our people here. That's not right. We're gonna heal our people the way we know. We've been healers forever. We have some of the greatest healers here. So we're not gonna let the provincial or federal government come in here and oppress us with their bills or their laws to say, well, you're gonna do it like this. No, 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 we're gonna do it our way. We're gonna take care of our own people, and you stay over there and you take care of your people. We'll take care of our people. On the federal side, they're also pushing a lot of bills through. You know, and we have to work together, as they say, Agwego Zawayote, work together, pull together as one, and we'll conquer great things. Just like in 1990, when we're all together, we fought as one. And, you know, if I'm elected as Grand Chief, I'll never back down. I didn't back down from the government on, you know, for negotiating for my business, and I'll never back down, you know, ever. And I'll always fight for the people and our jurisdiction and our sovereignty, you know, at the highest level, at the international level. You know, those things are very important.
30 seconds, Sterling.
To me, and my heart is to fight and to push for the people and all the people, from the young ones to everybody, you know. Let's all work together as one. And we'll go further and we'll be happy as a people and carry respect and honor with everybody, you know. And if I'm elected as Grand Chief, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna walk it.
Now we're going to start the candidates for the positions of Council Chief. And first on the list is Bart Goodley.
Good evening to all. Good evening, all the voters. Good evening, all the right candidates. My name is Bart Goodley. I'm 51 years old. I have, as you know, I've been an active member and dedicated member of Kahnawake community, serving its needs for several years. I feel it's time that I engage at a higher level to ensure that governments are delivering on all their promises. It's really quite an honor just to be considered as a community representative. I believe that my years of experience and acquired skills allow me to have a clear understanding of what it means to be in government. I can successfully interact at all levels of leadership. so that I can guard our community along with Kahnawaga's economic, social, and cultural development. Council touches on issues that are at the very heart of our community. So it should come to no surprise that you have decided to run for council chief so they can contribute to the decisions that are in the best interest of Kahnawake. It's a very serious commitment for me. It's going to involve sacrifice, but I want, more than anything else, to help our community to get stronger and to prosper. I feel I can be a key element in guiding our people, our youth, and our elders in ongoing civic engagements. But mostly, I have an unwavering commitment to improve the quality of our individual and community life. We need great projects, strong programs, real resources, better and overall standards for living within our community. For that to happen, governments need to be fair, transparent, and held accountable. It requires the right kind of leadership, one that understands why the modern system is the way it is, what the requirements are for effective governance, and how we could aim for what Kahnawake truly needs and deserves. My years in business, finance, and management, my ability to communicate and negotiate, with my profound attachment to the community of Kahnawake, will allow me to be an effective council chief. Kahnawake needs concrete, feasible plans to build a healthier, safer community. Imagine what we could achieve when Kahnawake council members and the community all work together. I want to reduce red tape. We all need to grasp what that really means. Red tape creates strong barriers in our much needed infrastructure projects. Basically, an endless roadblock on a pile of paperwork, wasting time, huge amounts of money, and therefore impeding on key projects moving forward. For example, affordable housing. We have major housing issues, an increasingly desperate need for low-income housing and old age homes. It's crucial that we offer proper services to our most vulnerable within our community. So, health services, including mental health, are also key issues. We need to promote resilience, reduce violence and substance abuse, to improve and sustain positive mental health in our community. Healthy pregnancies, child development are crucial family health issues for me. We need proper access to programs to help the Kahnawake people improve their overall health. Same with education. We keep talking about equality, but the fact remains that our kids have, per capita, much less resources than the average Canadian. With such subpar standards, we're setting our children up for failure. Education was meant to be first class, or at least comparable to what's found across the country. Sadly, that's not the case. That has to change. We need to intervene at the grassroots level, the seed level. We need our children to eat better, sleep better, and learn better. And with that said, I can
30 seconds, Barton.
do more. I will do my best every single day. That I promise. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I hope I could count on your support. Together we can make Kahnawake stronger, prosperous, for generations to come. Now.
Next on the list is Melissa Montour.
My name is Melissa Montour. I'm married. I have a 23-year-old son. He just graduated automotive mechanics yesterday. I'm the daughter of Donald Hash and James Montour. I have an educational background, starting from college degree. I have a certification for police technology. I then went on and got a constable's certification from l'École nationale de police du Québec. And then I also have a certification as a paralegal and a bachelor's degree as a major in political science. And I specialize in public policy, which seems to be all of the problems we have here relates to policy. In my work field, the CEO of Alpha Strategies Development Alliance is a consulting firm basically where we kind of create strategies that win. The founder and president of the Fighting Spirit Foundation and the Kahnawake Athletics Association. I'm currently serving as the director of operations for that. I sit as president of Spivas, which is an organization geared to help victims of sexual violence based in Laval. I belong to several international organizations, sorority sister in a Greek letter society where we focus on philanthropy and charity, which is our main focus. I belong to the International Society of Female Professionals. I'm also a member of the Martial Arts Association of Quebec and Boxing Canada. What I have is a vision for the community. It started from the last election when there was people asking what was anybody willing to do about substance abuse and addictions. And so I came up with a plan, and within the Fighting Spirit Foundation, I have 3 goals. And one is we need a community safe house, whether it's for people who are looking to get away from a violent situation or sexual abuse going on, or just need a place to run, or you just want to kick a habit and you just, it doesn't happen 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It just happens whenever you have a place to run, you have a place to get help. A rehab center is definitely something that we needed. Just that I can't do this by myself. I'm going to need the community to work with me on this because there's several reasons, right? There's land issues. Where are we going to put the building? There's all this red tape that we keep hearing about. So I definitely want to get that off the ground. I had spoke to Wahio Delill sometime in January, and I explained this to him, and he was looking more at something like a medical rehab facility, because there's detoxification and then there's rehab. Like detox is like a medical intervention, whereas rehab is more like we're going to work on your person, your spirit, stuff like that. And with these facilities that I would like to create within the community, I want it to be a holistic approach, not the mainstream social services and all that other. We have our own ways of dealing with trauma, and I think really people should look at that more. And I think holistically, it's better for the person to relearn their culture, their traditions, or how we do things, like even counseling and sitting in clans, for example. That's a great start. And really the work is on a social justice front. And then the third thing that I wanted to come out of this foundation was a transition house. So once a person gets clean, they have up to 1 year to move into this transition house with a low cost rent to be able to start functioning and getting on their feet and being independent again. And I don't just mean people coming out of a rehab center, but also people that come out of prison. There's a lot of underlying factors why people can't get housing. I know it's like hard, but sometimes like they're running credit checks, they're running background checks, they don't make it easy. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of this Fighting Spirit Foundation. And once we
30
get those
seconds,
two
Melissa.
done, I just want to finish by saying that we're going to get the Kahnawake Athletics Association started to make sure that all of our children have a chance to engage in sports, to stay busy, and to keep themselves healthy and strong. And I hope with everybody's help and I guess blessings that you'll choose me, because I'm a hard worker and I will try my best to get everything done that we need done. Thank you.
The next candidate is Wahio Delill.
Gwegwe, Kahnawake Rono, it's Yohahio Wahio Delill, Yujats. I'm married to Carla Sky. We have 8 children, 1 in spirit, and 3 grandchildren. I've been interested in politics since I was a very young child. I've been privy to various conversations at the dinner table. Words such as sovereignty, inherent rights, jurisdiction, it's all been part of the conversation my whole entire life. having the ability to come in and speak and ask and voice in front of our community, it's a tremendous honor. I want to thank everybody for putting all the logistics and framework together in order for us to successfully perform our dialogue amongst the people of the community as well as external. We're all here together and they're listening. Welcome. We need an open, transparent government that is accessible and accountable to the Kahnawake. It's very important as we step into the recovery phase of the pandemic to look at it and prioritize the importance of collectivity and maintaining our identity as Kahnawake people. Many of the candidates stress the importance to know our identity, to know the linguistics and what it means, the translation, the language of the collective, the original interpretation. And this is something I'm very passionate about. Our language, our culture, our governance, our interpretation. Securing it by looking at various infrastructures that will help promote it, whether it be through healthcare, streamlining the process of making decisions at a governing or a board directing table. I was recently elected to become a member of the KSC board of directors, and I was really grateful for that, having the ability to sit with superior professionalism. I spoke to many circles, I spoke to many people about detoxification, rehabilitation, stressing the importance of taking a cultural initiative, making it prioritized around that is very important. Creating our cultural birthing center, I explained many things and the pros and the cons and the good things about it, what it secures as far as our identity and the clinical detox, attaching our institutions and various things to that for compliance and accountability. It's very important. I'm also passionate about educating our Kahnawake our people on the Jordan's principle and the resources that we have accessible for dental and eye care. Along with that, securing our public institutions with for the handicap accessibility, various things like that is very important. Provide more services for the youths as well as leaders, elders who are still going through this sort of depression and anxiety that we're still experiencing from this pandemic. I will definitely work as a team player, and there was a couple of messages that were given to me before certain elders left.
30 seconds, Wahil.
Universally minded, and this is something that I'm going to bring to the table, and I want to thank you. I ran out of time, but I want to thank you very much. Y'all go.
The next candidate is Craig Delill.
My name is Craig Delill. My parents are Carol Thomas. My dad was a late Tuffy Delill, who also served as a council member from the mid-'80s right through 1990. I currently work at KMHC. So the main question I've been getting from community members is why I'm running. So a little backstory to that I'd like to share with you all. My dad passed about 2 years ago. And before he passed, I was visiting with him in his hospital room, complaining about all the things I wasn't happy with going on with MCK, the asbestos, the housing scandal, and a bunch of other things. And he cut me off and looked over at me, said, "Hey, if you're going to sit in that chair and complain about all these things, but do nothing about them, then you're part of the problem. And you should just shut the hell up, or throw your hat in the next election and try to bring about change. So here I am, and once I decided to actually run, I took a step back to figure out what that table was missing and what I could bring to it. And I came to the conclusion that what's missing from that table is someone like Martin LeBorn, who always made himself accessible to the community, and he was always accountable, and he was always very transparent in everything he did, and those are some big shoes to fill, but I'm up for that challenge, and I'd like to be that person that community members feel they could approach, because what I'm being told is there's a big disconnect between MCK and community members. This is how they feel, the people who approached me. So I would like to try to be that person to them, that council chief that they could approach anytime. And, my platform, everybody spoke on some of the same things already: the housing crisis, the housing scandal no one brought up. And like many others said here, our elders need lodging. Many community members and families are being forced to be outside. And as I sit here looking out my window here in Lot 106, what I don't notice is the building of private homes. Every year, I've been here 5 years, and every year there's 10, 15 houses go up. I don't see any local contractors putting up any new houses, but what I do see is MCK employees building sixplexes and the equity homes, which is good. But my question is, I think we should start sharing this work with the local contractors who have all native content employees. Maybe the faster we get up these housing units, the faster we could get people in. And also maybe some kind of short-term solution, so people don't have to leave town and they could stay inside of the community until said places are built and finished. I actually sat down with someone who was experiencing this crisis, who was paying like $2,000 a month to live in a hotel, which I think is totally unacceptable, with 3 children and his wife. So this is something that needs to be addressed immediately. Next is taxation. I've been going through so many laws and acts, and I'm just wondering where MCK is at on this whole taxation. Because there's laws that are laid out that go from that have every step how to levy taxes against our own band members. And if elected, this is something I would look into. Where are we at? What stage are we at? Did we accept it? MCK accept any of these acts? So that's something I would really, really like to dig into if elected. And also economic development. We need jobs for our people, especially after this global pandemic that thankfully we're all coming out of now, and hopefully we keep going in the right direction. People have gone into debt, among other things. I'm sure it brought along depression and all things that go with that, losing jobs. And okay, so I'm ready for this task. I'm up for this challenge, so I'm hoping people will come out on July 3rd and vote for me. Go.
The next on the list is going to be Alan John Rice.
Alan John Asana Rice Yujats, Waxkadeoge, Niwakaterodo. Or some people know me as AJ Rice. My parents are Alana Goodleaf Rice and Davis Rice. For those who may not know them, my grandparents are the late Sonny Goodleaf and Vera Goodleaf, as well as the late John Gums Rice and the late Marion Rice. Some people may not know, but I come from a pretty political family. My father was on council from 1986 to 2000, and my mother was executive director of MCK for over 25 years. So it's safe to say that political discussions were commonplace in my house, and it did play a big role in my decision to run for council this year. I actually thought about running for MCK election a few times in the past, but I decided I needed more experience in order to do the job properly. I graduated from Bishop's University in 2012 with a degree in history. I aimed most of my studies at Indigenous history because at the time Bishop's University didn't offer and Indigenous Studies courses. But after I graduated, I really thought I'd be set walking into a job in my field of study. I learned real fast this wasn't the case. Because of this, I worked many jobs throughout the community. I worked for Dewa Dunizakta. I did plumbing with my grandfather and my uncle. I even spent a summer working for NBC. But mainly I spent a few years working in the tobacco industry, where I did everything from shoveling tobacco to eventually running the machine. Following this, I worked a few months at dealing poker at Playground Poker before I was finally able to get my footing working in archaeology for the Office of the Council of Chiefs, which is a branch of the MCK. Once my contract was up at OCC, I went to my current position as General Manager of the Office of the Kahnawake Registry. I believe this has been a successful tenure thus far. Since I got there, we amended the Kahnawake membership law, which had been on hold for 7 years. We passed the Kahnawake law, as well as the Kahnawake residency law. The Kahnawake law has been implemented since 2019 and been running smoothly. And I'm pleased to say the Kahnawake residency law is under partial implementation currently. We also took major steps in community engagement during our campaign to educate the community on Bill S3 and the threats that posed. I think that I was fairly successful as the GM, and it proves that, like so many of us, all I really needed was a chance to prove myself, which is exactly what I'm asking the community to allow me to do again here. If I'm successful as a candidate on July 3rd, I'd like to hit the ground running, so to speak, by jumping on the social affairs portfolio, which consists of client-based services where I currently work, so I'd be familiar with a lot of the people working there. Also under the social affairs portfolio is recreation. As someone who grew up playing lacrosse in the community, minor sports do hold a special place in me. And lastly, the major part of social affairs, which is housing. I'd like to assess what I think we have to assess what the issue is with housing and why there is an issue in the community before we can take the steps to remedying that. Whether that be looking for increased funding or simply just building more units, the other idea would be to aim at our youth, to have some type of financial literacy program put in, which would help them be better, which would help our youth be better prepared for home ownership when the time comes. With that being said, there are many other areas that I'd be interested in taking on. As I mentioned before, I did work in archaeology, so I would really love to pick that up again, especially in the wake of the recent findings of residential schools. I believe that searching residential school grounds all over the country should be mandatory. In particular, the places where our children were sent. I think that we should have some of our people on the ground for when and if anything is uncovered there. As far as goals that can be achieved within the limited time that's allotted for a term of office, I'd like to see increased openness and communication between not only MCK, but the other organizations within the community. We're a community that has many different programs and services that are great and available for many, but so many people simply just don't know about them or don't know how to access them. This needs to change. I'd like to ensure the necessary information is accessible to community members and for those people who work in those organizations. A next step that would be interesting is, as a recent resident of the new development, I'd like to see work continued on the proposed emergency exit route, which was started over 3 years ago. This would be a route that would be accessible for mainly just our emergency services in case that's necessary. I'd like to see this work completed before we're hit by natural emergency. That would make it more of a necessity than a luxury. And lastly, for my initial 3 years, one thing that very much interests me is external governments.
10 seconds, Alan John.
Ultimately, I believe that's how we make major strides with outside governments. But finally, I believe the end goal of any councillor should be to look for an autonomous and self-sustaining Kahnawake, one that falls in line with the 2009 shared vision statement. Yaogoa.
After this here, we have 12 remaining, and we're moving along pretty well. The next candidate is Rhonda Kirby.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rhonda Kirby, and I'm very proud to say that I've been part of council since 2006. Over the years, we've all had our challenges with different files, and I'm always up for those challenges. Most recently, this past term, I've held the health portfolio, as well as transport, the Mersey Bridge. I've worked with Step by Step, and I'm also part of the Finance and Administration and Operations Committee. Today, we're hearing a lot about the different issues that are going on in our community. As you've heard from many of my colleagues here tonight, the issues are many and varied. And given the complexity of these issues, it takes 12 individuals to work together. It takes 12 individuals to be able to listen to one another, to be able to support one another, and it's just not for one person to do that job. Everyone's opinions matter and need to be considered. Today, we work on the portfolio mandate, which helps us to have a more inclusive team of people that we consult with. And I'd like to thank and validate all of our staff who've been part of our teams over the years, especially those in the Office of the Council of Chiefs, as well as our directors and general managers who play an important role. So it's just not the council chiefs or a grand chief that make things happen, and with the functioning of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, it's all of our staff that are here today. And currently, as the health portfolio chief, I think the health and wellness of the community is paramount, considering, and as you've heard from other candidates, that we've been living through the pandemic for the past 16 months. We've all, had experienced some critical issues, and now that we're moving into a recovery stage, even though we have precautions to follow, it'll take some time for a normal routine to come back. This in itself will be a challenge, given the confinements that we've had. So, and we also have to, and as many others have mentioned, the issues around the residential schools. So we have a lot of healing to do in this next chapter. And I believe that as a community, we've all been able to come together during different crises. And this would be one of them, although we've done very well. We've been able to live past this pandemic with everyone being vaccinated and everyone helping each other out. So and again, I think it's really important to recognize the community and thank everyone for everything that they've done for all of us. But I think it's really important that we need to take the time to acknowledge the young people and the children and how we all need to be there to support them as we move forward, as they are our future. As adults, we know the challenges, the difficulties that we've gone through, but we really don't know what the effects of the pandemic will be on our young people. As the health portfolio chief, I'm committed to working with community members, the different groups and organizations to ensure that the health and wellness is a priority for all of us. We want to make sure that our younger people and children continue to be happy, feel safe, and are hopeful. So if elected, I would certainly like to continue working on the health portfolio. More importantly, I'm committed to working and supporting the individuals who will be gaining those new positions very soon. So I'd like to say Kahnawake to the community who has supported me these past several years, and best of luck to everyone this evening. Kahnawake.
Before we go to the next candidate, I'm going to name Jessica Lazar as the next one.
Sego Sewaguego, they're just a what Jessica Lazar Yojats. Vox Careva Ganito Nimagita Roda, the Wasa Dego not the Vacosariago. My name is Jessica de Guata Lazar, and I am from the Bear Clan, and I am 28 years old. My father is Wada Lazar, and my mother is Julia Brown. My grandparents are the late Wallace and Hazel Lazar, and my ma is Catherine Montour Longboat. I have two children, Gadzaha Gatste and Dehuwaganere, both under 10 years old. I am currently employed as the Community Engagement Coordinator for the MCK. I've recently completed a 4-year term as a community representative on the board of directors at KSCS, and I've been involved in the Kahnawake Collective Impact since 2014. I'm also involved with 2 different national organizations that work with Indigenous youth across Turtle Island. One is being an ambassador of hope in the We Matter campaign to address youth suicide with hope, strength, and culture. The other is the Center for Indigenous Policy and Research, which is a pilot program that allows Ungwehunwe youth to share information and best practices in addressing policy at the federal level. In 2019, I had graduated from Ready One in Nirnuts, and for the past 2 years, I've been studying at Concordia University, majoring in public policy and First People Studies. My narrative starts with healing and finding my identity through our language and our culture. At a young age, I struggled to find a place for me in our community and felt very disconnected after going to school out of town. When I was 19, I had owned and ran a restaurant called the Coffee Cup Cafe. And in this cafe, elders would sit and talk about things like the weather, politics, and growing up in our community. I listened and learned from them and realized that I wanted to get more involved in where I live and where I will raise my children. When going through the Ready One Nirnuts program, I have learned how much of an impact learning our language can have on self-esteem, personal relationships, and our overall being. This immersion program had deconstructed all of the things I thought I knew about being Ungwehunwe and shaped a different view of the world and changed the way I conducted myself. I carry these teachings now in my work towards doing what I can to help our community. In November of 2019, I was tasked to engage the community on the topic of governance within the MCK Governance Project. I chose to break bread with and listen to the voices of those willing to participate, families, working groups, and individuals, to capture their visions of accountability and transparency in the conduct of their leaders. I have learned so much from these conversations and really believe in the words and the experiences that have been shared throughout this time. There is a written report including recommendations that encapsulated these conversations. My goals are to put the recommendations from that report forward and help the table achieve accountability and transparency based on what the community has shared. And so far, we have had the code of conduct that was accepted by the table last week. In the past couple of years, as a community, we have been dealing with so many different issues. Some are new and some have been going on for far too long. We have the housing predicament, the asbestos issue, as well as concerns such as accessibility and care to the community for elders and folks with special needs, youth engagement, our language and culture, and mental health concerns. And this is not even including the outside laws and bills that are affecting us directly or indirectly. My approach to dealing with these issues in our community is a collective approach. My journey and the work that I have put into it has taught me that inclusion is a part of my practice. We come from all different backgrounds, experiences, and connections, and we all have something important to say, and we all have something to contribute to solutions. As storytelling is part of who we are, it is a part of how we interact with one another and pass along knowledge. We know this from our stories from the Hoof Lady to the stories of the origin of Joe Delill burgers to the memories of the 1990 crisis. Sharing our stories and experiences with each other is how we can begin to heal, and that healing will lead us to where we need to be as a community. As important as it is to acknowledge our own experiences, identities, and roles, it is just as important to ensure that we remain united. I want what is best for our community and include as many folks as possible on this journey. I really think the only way to succeed is if we succeed together. Kahnawà.
Thank you, Jessica. The next on the list is Lindsay LeBourne.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out and watching this show tonight. I'd like to mention a few things about myself to you. My name is Lindsay LeBourne. My parents were Ronald LeBourne and Patricia Deere. I'm married to Margie Jacobs. I have 2 children, Brittany LeBourne and Wazokwiosta LeBourne. I spent the first 17 years of my life in New York. I enlisted in the U.S. Navy. I spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy. When I got out, I joined the Kahnawake Peacekeepers, which at the time was a fairly new organization. 3 years on the Peacekeepers. Then I went to New York again. I was an apprentice iron worker for Local 40. I worked there for 9 years. I was injured. While I was recovering, I joined the Peacekeepers again for a little over a year, right after 1990. And in 1992, I ran for council. I was successful, and I served 14 years. In 2006, I went back and did ironwork for another 11 years. And in 2018, I ran for council and I was successful again. And that is the term that is currently coming to an end in 10 days. Just to touch on some of the things that happened. First thing is, when we got on council, we were debriefed about the housing, as it's called, the housing scandal, which is still up in the air. It hasn't been resolved yet. It's no longer in Kahnawaga's hands. That is in outside court. It's being handled there, and where that is right now, we're not, unfortunately, we don't know where that is. All we know is it's outside. We also became aware of asbestos. Apparently sometime in the last 10 years or so, some pipes were improperly disposed of, and I'm sure most people have heard about it. It got dumped in various places in the community as landfill, and for the past year or so, we've been spending a lot of money, unfortunately, getting rid of it, sending it outside the community, and we still have a ways to go. On council, I'm on the FAO committee. I'm on the committee that's looking into the asbestos problem. It's called the ACI. I'm on the Mercier Bridge Special Committee. I'm also on infrastructure in the community, buildings, bridges, roads, etc., water and sewer. And I'm seeking another term. The reason being, I would really like to see some closure to the issues that I mentioned, the housing, the asbestos issue. The easiest thing to do would be to just not run and leave it to somebody else to deal with. I don't think that's right. I would like to be given the opportunity to see those projects through to the end and to a successful completion. And so that's why I'm running. We have plenty of issues, as you've heard from everybody. And if you read the paper and just listen to our radio station, you know we have a housing problem, which I would say that as long as I can remember, there's been a housing shortage. Back when I got out of the military and I was looking for a house, you couldn't find a house in town. I ended up being in Chattagee for 2 years until I saved some money up to get a mortgage through the community's mortgage program that they had, because you weren't able to get, there was no bank in town at the time. You couldn't get a bank loan, so you had to do it through our town.
30 seconds, Lindsay.
Yep. You had to do it through the town's system. So I understand what it's like to have to live outside the community and spend a lot of money rather than spend it on your mortgage. So I understand that, and we're trying to figure out ways to remedy that situation in the community. I'd like to wish everybody that's running best of luck.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Jeremiah Johnson.
Thank you, Kahnawake, for having me. I wish we could have done this face to face, but I'm thankful that at least we have this forum to speak with each other. There's several reasons I'm running for council. Some of them very large, some of them rather small. One of the big reasons is that I'm running is because I feel that disconnect between council and the community. The community doesn't involve itself in community meetings and CDMP and such for a lot of reasons, but mainly because of lack of trust and they don't have that feeling that they're being listened to. They don't have a voice in council. And I've been involved in community issues since many years now. I started with the grassroots movement with FNEA movement, the no casino, the residency issue. And I followed a lot of these things from the very beginning, and especially residency membership, for example. I was part of the grassroots movement for that. I was one of the spokespersons for the group that undertook that. We then went to council where the membership and residency law were developed, where I was chosen to be a community representative on the drafting team for those laws. As a community rep, my job was to assure that the will of the community was strictly adhered to during the drafting of those laws. And I did a very good job, I feel, at doing that. And there was a lot of arguing back and forth, but in the end, the will of the community is what was put down on paper at the end of the day. And following that from grassroots to working as a community rep, I would like now to follow that issue to the implementation and enforcement phase now that these things have been passed. Another issue spoken about, of course, is the housing. You know, I mean, we have elders who need housing, but also our youth. You know, we have a lot of young people coming of age and they want to move out of their house and there's no place for them to go. They have to leave their territory to find housing. And that's the last thing we want for our youth. We want our youth to stay here. We want them to be in Kahnawake. We want them to have careers here. We want them to have their families here. And it could be a little difficult doing that when they have to leave the territory when they're so young and start their life outside of town. We need to fix that. Another issue I'd like to deal with is own source revenue and economic development in our community. We have a lot of wants and a lot of needs in Kahnawake, and we do have money put aside, but the problem with our economy is that we're very dependent on federal dollars, and the more we are dependent on those federal dollars, the less autonomy we have to implement the sort of laws, regulations, and rules that we need in our community to serve our people. And until we can start doing that, we're always going to be under the thumb of the federal government, and we need to start pushing forward in different aspects like cryptocurrency mining, the cannabis industry. There's a lot of things out there that could potentially bring revenue to Kahnawake. And I've said it before, you know, we're not going to strike oil on clay mountains. There's no diamonds on OCR. We don't have anything for the future that's going to help propel this community, you know, into a better future. And if we don't start taking advantage of those options now, we're gonna run out of options very fast.
You're looking to see.
Another issue that we have, I guess I spoke some of the larger ones. Some of the smaller ones is we have a lot of talent in our community. We have artists, we have singers, we have beadworkers, we have drama, you know, the performing arts. We need places for these people to exhibit their forms of art. We have a cultural center that's in such disarray, and it really needs to be worked on. I mean, there are communities that have beautiful cultural centers, you know, to promote their culture, and I feel bad that Kahnawake has such a poor location to present what we hold so dear. Well, like I said, there's a lot of things that concern me. CDMP, another big one. The way we make laws in this community has to be from the people. The community needs to have full input and consultation when it comes to these laws that are created. They shouldn't be made at council behind closed doors. They should be made by the people. Anything that affects the community, the people should have involvement in. And CDMP is something I would like to definitely take, you know, take a grasp of, because we have low participation, and
30 seconds, Maya.
When the big issues come up, we have a lot of participation, but we need to bridge that connect between the community and council and build trust so that people will participate more. Nyawagoa, Kahnawake.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Before we move to the next candidate, I'd like to request again, if anybody has questions for the candidates, to call 514-618-5334 or send a private message to the MCK Facebook or comment. The next candidate is Michael Delill Jr.
Sego Kahnawake, Kahnawà Angus. Whether in person or by Zoom as we are tonight, it still makes me nervous to speak in front of our people. People may laugh at that, but it's the truth for people who know me. Mike Delill Jr., my supportive wife, Terry Horn Delill, my 3 wonderful children who I'm very proud of, Adam, Wisse, and Sarah, And I'd be remiss on June 23rd, which is a very special day for our family, to not wish my daughter a happy birthday, celebrating on her own somewhere. So I hoping she's having a good evening. Went through a very difficult time last year with my granddaughter, Sarah's daughter. Sarah is one of the strongest people, not only women, that I know, and encourage her in everything she does. Proud of my boys as well. Middle boy will be 30 years old.
We seem to have some technical difficulties here. Hang on. Okay, so now I think they're ready. Mike, you can continue.
Okay, I won't start over, obviously. I don't know how much time is left, but I was talking about the threat of external government, both provincial and federal, the disconnect at the Kahnawake-Canada relations table, and recently with the disconnect at the Seigneury of Sault Ste. Louis table. The negotiation protocol, which was in place at the table when we were negotiating for 10 years, has been gutted. I can't go into details as this is a public forum at this point, but we're more than angry, and we will be sending letters and more than that to the minister as well as the Prime Minister of Canada, telling them how Kahnawake is upset with the lack of continuity, the lack of a federal negotiator, when in fact the minister tells us that there's been success in the recent negotiations when we actually have not even been at the negotiation table. Quebec as well, as recently as today, actually yesterday, but notified us today that a slap in the face in terms of them not wanting to recognize statutory holiday for Indigenous Peoples Day. They say all the right things, yet they don't put words into actions. It may seem like a small token of appreciation or at least acceptance and identification of Indigenous people within the territory they consider Quebec, but it's an insult to us. We are trying to continue that relationship that must be maintained on both levels with Canada and Quebec because they're in our backyard. They live amongst us. They live on our land. They live in our territory. They reap the benefits of our resources. We need to be able to, again, strike that fear in them to ensure that they understand where Kahnawake stands, that we will not back down, and that we're prepared to go the distance, basically, whether it be on identifying membership, scenery, as I mentioned, and the 24,000 acres that we're trying to negotiate back to community, all the way into local issues of taxation with Quebec and so on. The other major problem that we have is income security. It's been a very, I'll say, problematic year overall for the world with the pandemic, obviously, but internal to Kahnawake, we've been very lucky in having funds for a rainy day such as this, and it obviously was pouring for the last year. We're not going to be able to do that if something like that happens again. And the reason why I say it that way is that income security has been something that's been missing in the community for a long time. We need to look at either incorporating our own type of pension system for the average worker, not just the people who work for MCK or KSCS or the institutions within our organization, but all the way through, whether they work in the tobacco trade, whether they work in the mom and pop shops and beyond. Mohawk Self-Insurance has been able to do some of that for some people, and its universality has helped in a lot of ways. But if in fact something were to happen again sometime in the near future or even in the distant future, I hope that some of us have learned that lesson over the course of the last 16 to 18 months, that income security is extremely important. Things like collective impact, which was mentioned earlier, have helped us look at some of those social problems within the community and have tried to help lead us in a better, responsible way in administering our own affairs, whether it comes to food sovereignty, which has obviously become very important over the course of the last 16 months. People identified with that. I'm glad to see that it's actually starting to take shape in the community, have some will by the people, and starting to produce results. There are many issues that can't be resolved over the course of a term or several terms or several years, even decades for that matter, because of some of the social problems that exist amongst us. Those things can be attributed to some of those problems that collective impact is trying to address. So I'll say that I'm glad to support that. I'm hopeful that it continues, and glad to see that those fruits are starting to become part of what can be picked by our community and produced for the future generations of Kahnawake. Other than those two major problems that we foresee, a lot of the issues that have been talked about over the course of the last hour plus now from other candidates, like housing, like asbestos and so on, need a continuum. I can bring the experience necessary to ensure that, although looked at from administratively and financially for the last 3 years, would like to become more involved once again in that leadership role for external government, for dealing with the scenery of Sault Ste. Louis, which I believe is at the crux of where the future of Kahnawake will be. So again, with your support, I am seeking that re-election on July 3rd.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Family. Yango.
I just want to make a comment that due to the technical difficulties we had, we let Michael's 5-minute speech run its full course after we had about 2 minutes worth of glitches, so we continued on. We can now continue with Arnold Boyer.
Good evening, Kahnawake. My name is Arnold Boyer. I am 58 years old. I am a member of the Bear Clan. I am happily married to Anne-Marie Phillips. In August, we'll be celebrating our 38th anniversary. I have 2 daughters, Carla and Cara. My daughter, Cara, is married to Merrick Ross. Merrick Ross is an Ojibwe from Manitoba, Saugeen First Nation. My parents are Ronald Boyer and Sheila Paul. My wife's parents are the late Stuart Phillips and Alice Montour. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge, I say now a go to the Commissioner of Public Safety, Lloyd Phillips, the entire task force, and all the frontline workers for a job well done, keeping our community safe, especially our most vulnerable during this pandemic for the past 16 months, for securing the vaccines. I am double vaxxed, and I encourage everyone to get their vaccines. It is nice to hug your father and mother and your whole family. I would also like to thank Lloyd and Anne-Marie for their confidence in me to nominate me for council chief. I believe that I have a strong mind and spirit that would guide me to make decisions at the council table. I have strong work ethics. I have no personal agenda. I will serve our community, our community's needs, and the needs of our future generations. I'm 58 years old. At my age, I will not make it a career choice to be council chief. I am currently a member of the Peacekeepers Ethics Committee and a past board member of the ABC. At the age of 19, I started my career in the federal government. I started out as a draftsman at Indian and Northern Affairs. Throughout the years, I worked at Health Canada, Transport Canada, to the present, Public Service and Procurement Canada. I have gained a wealth of knowledge and experience over the years that I will bring to our community. My career gave me the opportunity to travel across the country. I've seen many other First Nations, and while working with Health Canada, I visit every health center and treatment center in the province of Quebec. As the years passed and hard work and determination, my roles and responsibilities increased to get me where I am today. I am an accessibility auditor, ensuring compliance with the Canada Accessible Act for government buildings in the National Capital Area. I identify barriers for people with disabilities. I see and hear the needs of communities, of our community. Urgent need for housing, the scenery, land claim, and accessibility to all community members with disabilities. In the spirit of my late father-in-law, Stuart Phillips, I would like to see the resolution on senior land claim. Our future generation shouldn't bear the struggle to resolve land claim. Get the housing department back on track. It needs to be restructured. The community lost its confidence and trust within our housing department. We need to bring that. We need to bring the confidence and trust back. Make Kahnawake buildings and areas accessible for all community members. Creation and construction of respite center for children and young adults with disabilities. We should plan facilities for future growth. With our aging population, the creation of a new independent living center for seniors required. At the council tables, surely there'll be debates and disagreements, but at the end of the day, we will have our minds together as one. Council members should conduct themselves in a peaceful, respectable, and compassionate manner to themselves and to the community. All things can be accomplished with strength, respect, and peace. A little mention about 215. In the past months, the horrors of residential
Okay, thank you,
schools.
Arnold. Our next candidate is Ryan Keith Montour.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me into your living rooms around Kahnawake. You know, my name is Ryan Montour. I am the son of John Montour and Audrey Susie Montour. I do have 3 stepchildren that I help co-raise with my common-law partner, Rut, for the last 10 years. They are Maya, who is 10, 12, 14, and 16, Montana, and Erica. I've helped co-raise them. What they've seen in me is a consistent, hardworking individual. We have a lot of fun together, and I just want to say that I did step up to the plate for them. I will for our community. Part of my background is I am a sergeant in U.S. Marine Corps. I do have a CWB welding certificate, certified welder. I was a past project manager at Green Summit Carpentry. I was a past project manager at Blitz Construction. I am a current board member at KSCS. I like to say that a true leader will never ask anybody to do what he hasn't done for himself. Throughout my life and my journey, I encountered certain adversities. 1990, when you're willing to pick up a rifle and defend your country, our nation, the Mohawk Nation, that says something about a person. A true leader will either fight or fight. I chose to fight alongside the great men and women of our community to protect it as a role and responsibility as a leader to provide and protect our people, our families, our children. I did step up to the plate at that time. But if through my life experiences and my life journeys, there was I started off like everybody does in Kahnawake. The 3 things growing up when I was young: you went to the military, you went to do iron work, and you partied. I did do all 3, and I was very good at all 3 of them. You know, I did have a tragic event happen in my life that set me on this path that I am now. You know, I've been to their prisons, I've been to their rehabs, I've been through their wars from the outside governments, and that's the person it molded me into today. For the past since 2013, upon my release back in the community, I have decided to change and turn my life around. I think I've been inspired to make a difference in our community. Doing that through community engagement, community volunteering. I'll go through a quick list because I don't want to waste my time saying all the things that I do try and do to help my people. I am taking a leading and active role in alcohol abuse and drug prevention awareness team. I work very closely with KSCS prevention team, which include sharing my story, talking in schools, the radio, longhouse, teen group. I think it's important that we educate our children. We educate our children, we educate our people. And it's a prime leadership role to set the example. You have to set the example. It starts at home to build up our strong family unit. Okay, we have two head of households. You have the man and his role and responsibilities. We have the woman and her role and responsibilities. The man's is to provide and protect. The women take care of the rest. We should be listening to our women. I have it easy here. I do live with five women, my cat and my dog. All joking aside, I am involved in more community engagement, but my main goal is to prevent what happened to myself or other community members. 30 seconds. My vision for Kahnawak's future would be for the housing initiative. I will tackle that through private-public partnership. I was involved in container construction. We have to get private sector capital. It's faster, it's easier, going through the red tape, eco-friendly. Together we will.
Okay,
work
thank you,
together.
Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Time is up. Next on the list is Tanya Perron.
Fellow candidates, Tanya Wandanoro Perron, Ujats. So before I begin, if you still don't know who I am Turtle Clan. My parents are Lulu Phillips and Roger Perron. I am married to Thomas Lahash, and we have...
We got technical difficulties once again. We're going to have to put you on hold. And I think now we're good now, Tanya. You can start again, and we're going to put the clock back to 5. Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna start over from beginning because I'm not quite sure if everybody heard me. So once again, Gwegwe Kahnawake and fellow candidates, Tanya Wandanoro Perron Ujats. For those of you that don't know me, I am Turtle Clan. My mother is Lulu Phillips and my father is Roger Perron. I am married to Tommy Lahash, and we have two wonderful sons, aged 12 and 15, and I have two great adult stepsons. Before I begin with the actual speech, I just wanted to commend all of the candidates, especially those ones that made speeches so far. It's been great to hear all of your platforms, and I hope to have an opportunity to work with you. I'm looking forward also to hearing the rest of the speeches. This has been an experience to do this way. I ran last year in 2018, and it was all done in person at the Knights of Columbus 2018. I can tell you the chair I'm sitting on here today is a lot more comfortable than the chairs that we were sitting on at the Knights of Columbus. So that's a plus. Consider yourselves lucky. So this is the end of my first term in council. I've been the lead portfolio chief on the justice portfolio, KLCC and cannabis. I've also been a portfolio chief on governance, Indigenous rights and research, QKR from time to time. I assisted more recently in that portfolio. And I've also been acting as the chairperson of the table since last March, roughly. Once, I believe when COVID started, I took over that responsibility. Prior to my election in 2018, I was a lawyer in private practice in the community for over 20 years. I know a lot of people make jokes about lawyers being dishonest and simply money hungry, but I assure you that I carried myself throughout my practice by living by principles of honesty, integrity, and fairness. I was also always a very respectful, still am, and respectful to people, and I was actively always listening to what people were saying. These are principles that I still live by today, each and every day of my life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just who I am. My career as a lawyer was one which I was dedicated to and was very passionate about. My dedication and passion has taken on a new direction, but the beneficiaries of that dedication and passion are the same. It's my community. I've come to realize and truly understand that we all have a role to play in the advancement of our collective rights, in the growth of our economy, in taking care of our community and children, in protecting and protecting our rights and jurisdiction. No single person can accomplish this on their own. We really do need to work together as an organization, as a community, as a people, and as a nation. We need to do this not only for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the generations to come.
And I think we're good now. Okay, Tanya, you got a minute left.
Before you run my minute, can you just maybe provide me with some insight into where I left off and what the last words I said that were heard?
Stop using terms like us and them.
Thank you so much. All right. So the governance project that has been undertaken this term is a step in this direction, engaging with the community on what good governance means and on where it starts is essential to a good relationship between the Council of Chiefs and the community. I'm committed to seeing this project through and ensuring that the work to be done as a result of that community engagement is carried out. I've also realized we forgot how to just talk to each other. So much misunderstanding and dissatisfaction could be avoided by simply talking to each other. Fact-finding, obtaining accurate information, getting answers to questions can best be achieved by direct dialogue, which for me is real engagement. We have to find ways to improve the communications between each other. If I'm reelected, I'm determined to find better ways to work together and to communicate more efficiently. 3 years went by really quickly and there's still so much I would like to work on. The list is endless. I've only just begun to scratch at the surface of what the real political side of this position entails. And so far—
Okay, Tanya, thank you very much. Time is up.
Wow. Thank you very much. Good luck, everybody. You'll all be cut off probably the same way as some of us have. So good luck. Make it quick.
Okay, next on the list is Tanya Williams.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Wow, we've got some challenges tonight, but I hope to get through this. My name is Tanya Williams, and this is my third seat at the MCK elections. And I just want to say that the last two elections, I've seen a lot of people come and go. And I'm still here and I will continue to be here because I am so passionate and dedicated to the work that we do towards our community. I have dedicated over the last 20 years my career and my education to see our community grow, and through positions and to volunteer experience that I have been involved in the last 21 years. I hold a diploma in criminology, an associate arts degree, and a diploma in general studies. And I also am in fourth year of at Concordia University in international relations. And just recently, I finished my business training from McMaster's University. And I just want to say, I started my career in 2001 in the MCK Intergovernmental Relations team. And I also spent 2 years at a National Center for First Nations Governance. And throughout my career, I have developed capacity for our community regarding research and capacity in the area of justice, public safety, policing, corrections, and childcare. And currently I'm employed full-time as an employee within the strategic organization.
And I think we're ready to go again. So Tanya, you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so why am I here tonight? Well, I'm really here because I believe very passionately in our collective vision of 2009. And I want to work really hard towards implementing that. And the collective vision talks about unity, it talks about peace, it talks about a thriving economy, and it talks about having a government that listens to the voice and includes the voice of the people in its decision it makes. So how do we get there? Well, the economy obviously is one of the most important things that must be realized through action. Our community cannot rely on organizations as the biggest employer. We must create industries that create jobs and with wages that families can actually live on. And that starts with creating industries for our community in order to thrive. That is very important, and that is one of my reasons why I want to really work hard at that table to do that. And I want to say that investments with public companies, they must be accompanied by fair, open, and transparent business plans that actually target real growth. Without a plan, we are really nothing. And the collective and the confidentiality regarding finances and revenues, it really needs to end now. Because we need to practice exceptional governance and not just good governance, something that far exceeds that. And that starts with eradicating confidentiality among public monies. And the role of traditional government and governance is going to really rely heavily on the next Grand Chief that we elect. This issue has been dividing our community since the 17th century, and we really need to elect a person, a Grand Chief, that will guide us peacefully into unity while maintaining our traditions and our principles. And the taxation agreements, we need to move out of administration and into legislation. I don't understand why we keep creating agreements that we cannot afford. We need to make legislative amendments in order to have enforcement. And we also need to create a system that collects our data and respects our privacy. And the youth of our community absolutely need to be heard and valued. In 2009, we consulted the community with the Collective Vision Project, and none of their dreams and none of their wishes were ever implemented. They wanted less reliance on cigarette stores, more jobs for them to choose from, and peaceful, healthy community and families. And we dropped the ball. I have a 19-year-old son who tells me that he's going to move away as soon as he can because there's no jobs here for him. And that really, truly breaks my heart. But before we can do that, we need to deal with something called post-COVID response and recovery plan for our community. We need to assess the damage that COVID did to ourselves, our mental wealth, and our health, and our communities, and we need to access part of that $11.7 billion increase from the federal government and triage our community. And I just want to say in closing that I am the product of residential and day school trauma. I am personally familiar with the daycare, the child foster care system, and I've worked and pivoted my entire life.
Seconds, Tanya.
And I think that everybody can heal as well and to grow. Thank you.
Our next is Ross Montour.
What Conrado Kahnawake Ross Montour, that's my father is known to many, was Maddie General Gage Montour, and my mother was Blanche Montour. So many also know me as having been involved in Kahnawake, either as the host of the Party Line talk show intermittently from 2001 until just the year I ran before getting elected, so 2013. There were breaks in between, and I also worked in the media in Kahnawake. I worked for Kenneth Deere at the Eastern Door, and after having lived away for many years, that's how I cut my teeth in reorienting myself to Kahnawake, which no matter where I've lived in my home, in my life, Kahnawake has always been my home. As I sit here, I look outside, I see the St. Lawrence Seaway, and I was born the year that project started. And you know that we talked to different candidates have talked about housing. And one of the things that the Seaway did, aside from taking away our land, taking away big chunks of our language that had to do with life on the river, it impoverished a lot of people. And my family was one of the families that was impoverished. This led to my living from the age of 9 to the age of 20 in Brooklyn. And from there I returned, never considered it to be a place that I would ever live forever. My heart and my spirit was always here, was Kahnawake. That said, when I came back, I went to school. I went to Manitou Community College, and while I was there, I met my first wife, who was from the Ojibwe Nation. And I lived many years in her territory. 2 children from there, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren as well. I'm currently with my second wife, who is Lynn Delill, who is the daughter of Andrew T. Delill. So I guess you could say that politics is well into my lineage as well, both sides, and even in who I end up with. You know what I believe in? I believe in historical resonance. This is a very unique election. The fact is that there are going to be at least 5 new faces at the table. I want to congratulate anybody who puts their name forward to serve the community, and wish you all luck in this. And whoever ends up on July 3rd as sitting at that table, I want you to understand that that's something that's meant to be, and to carry that with you, I think is extremely important. When I first ran for council, I ran because, you know, we had laws, but we didn't have the court system to uphold our laws. Our laws instead were being tested in outside courts, which was, to my mind, just unreasonable, unfathomable. And that's what just really drove me on one level to run for council. But I had always been, you know, it's interesting in my life, you know, I've seen both Trudeaus in the last 50 some odd years. And you know what, the beast doesn't change. It's the same beast. So when I got on a council, there were a few things that I was like a kid in a candy store. I said, so because I cared about the way we were making laws, I wanted to be involved in the legislation portfolio. So I put my name forward for that. Because of the lack of having a complete justice system to uphold our laws, you know, it's more than parking tickets and speeding tickets. I decided to put my name in for justice. I also had a commitment to language, as my current grandkids here as students at Gadi Winordo. Those parents, those families, you know, with a deep commitment to maintaining the language.
30 seconds, Ron.
Yes. I missed what you said, Angus.
30 seconds, 15 seconds left.
Okay, so I have been heavily involved in external government relations at fighting for Bill C-15, the protection of our gaming rights, also working on the scenery of Sault Ste. Louis. And that is right now, and Mike Delill spoke about it earlier. I'm part of that team. And we need to get
okay, Ross, thank you
government
very
on
much.
notice. So good luck to everybody. Thank you for the time. And I thought.
Okay, next we're gonna have Harry Angus Rice.
Am I on? All right. Good evening, Kahnawake. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Harry Angus Rice. I am the son of the late Paul Rice, residential school survivor, and Catherine Paul Rice. I have one sister named Amber. I think everybody knows her too. And I have 3 children, 3 beautiful children, and 1 grandchild I'd like to share a picture. My children's names are Kahnawà, Varundadzi, and Thunder. And my grandson's name is Joe Audide. I want to thank all the supporters from the last term, family, friends, everybody who's voted for me. I want to thank you. I'm seeking a second term to do some unfinished business. The last candidates night, I mentioned Gadi Winordo as my platform, and I still will fight for them. I believe that it's integral part of Kahnawake. The preservation of the language and the culture needs to start at the children, and Gadi Winordo offers that system. I think that we only reached 1/3 of our goal so far. We secured the funding, but the main goal is to have them a permanent home, something to call their own school, their own place that they can institute the learning of the Mohawk immersion. Through the education file that I'm on, I've attended many FNEC meetings to solidify funding for KEC. I helped bring the not the FNEC Games. It is sponsored by the FNEC Games, but I helped bring the Ancestors Challenge here to Kahnawake, which was a breath of fresh air for the children of our community. A lot of smiling faces. It was very, very great turnout. The people that were here running it were very, very pleased with the Kahnawake, the host being the host. So I was really happy that we had that come true Kahnawake. I've also worked in the heritage portfolio. I worked with Parks Canada, and we worked with several of the communities, surrounding communities, in collaborating in some kind of event, whether it be the Indigenous Day or commemoration at the BMO Bank. I want to bring a couple of ideas back to the table. One is the Residential School Survivors Memorial, which I was working with the Orange Shirt Group, head by Helen Jarvis. We will be starting, if I get reelected, we will be starting meetings again to have something to honor our residential school survivors. That's very near and dear to my heart because my dad is a residential school survivor, as I mentioned. And I think that something like that should be in Kahnawake to honor all residential schools survivors. I also like to I'd like to also reopen an idea that came to past the table early on in my term, and it was called a field house. Now, what the field house would consist of is indoor soccer field / lacrosse rink, lacrosse field with many more amenities in there for our youth. A lot of people were talking about having something solidified for our youth. We have very, very many talented children in a community, but when it comes for them to develop those skills further and push farther in their career or their dreams, they have to go outside of Kahnawake to train. I think we need that training facility right here in Kahnawake. Let me switch my page. I was recently on the mental wellness action team. This team is it will help those who are in need from any dealings that they're dealing with from traumatic from the COVID that COVID has brought. And in closing, again, I'd like to thank the community. I wish all the candidates the best, and especially for those who put their names out for Grand Chief. That's quite the I don't even know what word to use for it, but that's really putting yourself out there. I want to congratulate all of you, wish all of you the best, and hopefully we'll see you at the polls and vote for
Harry. Thank you very much. We've gone to the last, but certainly not the least, is Cody Dybel.
Sego Kahnawake, Cody Dybel Udits. I am 31 years old. I have a beautiful 4-year-old daughter, Ivy. My partner is Kirsty Dybel. For those of you who don't know me, my parents are Donald Hash and Rodney Dybel. I was elected to council in the October 2019 by-election. Currently, I'm on the environment portfolio, the lead on it, and I'm as well second on lands. I take part in the KCR sectoral and main tables. I'm also the lead on the ACM, or the asbestos files. That's including the asbestos working group dealing with the remediation, as well as the asbestos civil investigation. So almost a year and a half ago, I presented myself to the community and laid out concerns I had for the future of the community and a vision on how to start addressing those concerns. The main concern I have, which is becoming more prevalent, is climate change. So on top of everything else that we're dealing with in Kahnawake, everything that was brought up today, housing, pressure from the external governments, we can't forget about also that big threat of climate change. Just this year alone, we can see the effects of that. Our mild winter that only really started in January, that record heat wave that we had in mid-May, the recent tornado in Neskush, several droughts around the globe. If we think of our relationship with Canada is rough now, I don't really want to imagine what it's going to be when resources are limited. You know, by 2050, the world's population is expected to be around 9.8 billion. That's an increase of about 2.2 billion people. And the climate itself is expected to be on average at least 2 degrees Celsius hotter. Unless countries are willing to drastically change their ways, we are in for a scary future. However, we can begin now preparing for that future to ensure our survival and perhaps show others along the way how to do things differently. In October of 2019, when I was elected, I immediately got to work on my vision and how we would ensure a stable and steady food source. I can say now that with the support of the community, we are currently working towards that vision. And with our current timeline, we are set to begin constructing Kahnawak's first ever indoor farming facility. Aquaponics is the way of the future, utilizing an age-old proven technique with a modern twist of technology to ensure that our food would be grown year-round, free of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, and able to weather droughts and freezing winters. It will be community-owned, ran and operated by the community, providing sustainable jobs, fresh and healthy food at a lower cost for community members, and generating revenue that will spur on many other spin-off businesses and promote trade and commerce, not only for our community, but for other Indigenous communities. Along this journey, I've also willingly taken on many other files because I'm here to do what I can for my community. I have taken on the ACM issue that is plaguing our community, and with that have also initiated the need to have an independent investigation to determine what happened, why, when, and how we can ensure this will never happen again. If re-elected, I will continue working on the ACM issue. I will continue to work towards a self-sustainable Kahnawake by doing more sustainable projects, looking at maybe more food initiatives that are there to complement what's already being done as well with the grassroots. The goal is collaboration, not competition. If we're going to survive as a people, we need to work together and you pull our resources together. I also believe now is the time to start exploring the clean energy production sector. That was another goal I had in 2019. Perhaps one day we can have our own energy grid, separate from Hydro-Quebec and being truly self-sufficient, producing our own food and producing our own energy. But the big common theme with all these ideas is land. Hence why I was also want to take on the Seigneurie of Sault Ste. Louis file. For far too long, our unceded land has been and is continuing to be developed. We must start putting the surrounding area on notice that this is our land, not theirs. They have no right to develop our land. Some may say you don't have the experience or knowledge to take on this file. To them, I say, I had no knowledge of ACM, but I took that on. And we have made great strides and are very close to a global remediation strategy with much cleanup that has already been completed. I can also say I had no knowledge in indoor farming, and I can say again, a farm is soon to be constructed. It's true, I don't know everything, but my accomplishments speak for themselves. I get things done. I do not shy away from challenges. So I hope that on July 3rd, that you will come out and support me once again, because together we can plant the seeds for a better tomorrow. Now we'll go, stay safe, and see you on next week.
Thank you, Cody. That concludes the speeches portion. I'd like to thank all the candidates for your fine speeches, and you've behaved quite impeccably. Very proud of you. On behalf of everyone, I thank you and have a good night, and we'll see you at the polls. Now we'll go.